Hello, folks. This is Greg Herger, the actor who played Grandpa in All American Massacre. I'm leaving this post for you all because something wicked this way has come, and I want to address it and make everyone aware of just exactly what it is that is happening. If you're a fan of this film, I know that you've heard talk on the internet the last couple of months about this Dragon Studios in the UK and Stephen Crane, and they're talking about how they have legally purchased the raw footage of All American Massacre from someone we don't even, God knows from where. And he has a legal right to edit this film and release it. And they're supposedly going in to reshoot some scenes that evidently weren't shot, or that they don't have footage of or something, and it's a few scenes, and they're crowdfunding right now, and evidently their crowdfunding page has been generating some pretty decent funds for this to happen. And I just want to let you know, folks, that I have been dealing with Stephen Crane since last September. And so I have been doing a lot of homework on what exactly is this guy's modus operandi, so to speak, why he's doing this. And I'll just give you a little bit of background. In 2013, one of the producers of All American Massacre, Eric Lasher, passed away, and his storage locker was abandoned, and there was a bunch of All American Massacre master tapes in there, and 35 millimeter film negatives, and all kinds of stuff from the film, and it went up for auction. And we don't know who purchased that. That was 2013. We don't know who purchased it, and the cool thing is that this person who did purchase that has not tried to cash in on it. They haven't, made themselves known that who they are, and so that's been kind of cool. Then in 2017, series creator Toby Hooper passed away, and now, just this past year in August, Stefan Lakovich storage locker was abandoned, and he had a master work tape on video of about 4 or 5 scenes from the movie that were unedited, and a bunch of, just clowning around behind the scenes footage, and a bunch of stills. And this went up for sale, and the asking price of this was $8,300. And very surprisingly, it sold relatively quickly. And so that was last August. In September, I started receiving text messages from Stephen Crane in the UK, and he was asking me if I could put him in touch with Tony Hooper, because he wanted to help Tony finish editing the film and finish getting it all together and releasing it. Well, at the time, he was just another guy who was wanting to help Tony get the movie done. And I get, messages from people like that all the time. And Tony never wants to work with people who he doesn't know. And so it's always the same answer. It's like, no, and please... thanks, but no thanks, And so anyway, I've gotten to the point where when I get these kind of messages from these kind of people, I just ignore them, because it's always the same outcome anyway. So I don't even bother passing it on to Tony anymore. But this guy was persistent, and starting in September, he was texting me a couple times a week, sometimes more than that even. And this went on September, October, and finally into November. About 3 months of this, and it's starting to get annoying, and so I figured, okay, I've got to have to deal with this guy because he's not going to go away. So I sent him a text, and I said, hey, look, I've been getting all of your text messages, and I contacted Tony, and I told him who you were and that you were interested in helping him finish editing the film and finishing the film up. And he's told me to tell you thanks, but no thanks. He's working on it at his own pace, and and that's that. And I figured, okay, well, good, maybe that he'll go away now, this Stephen Crane guy. Well, he didn't, and he sent me a text back saying, well, he says, you can tell Tony that me and my studio have legally purchased for a hefty sum of money, I might add, the original raw footage from All American Massacre, all of it. And not just videotape copies, but we're talking about the master reels. And he says, and we had the legal right to own these, we had the legal right to purchase them, and we had the legal right to edit this movie and release it. Now, we're going to do this with or without Tony's help. So you can just pass that on to Tony and see what he's got to say about that. Well, I gotta tell you, this was shocking news to me. So I immediately texted him right back, and I said, I just want to confirm what you purchased, what you have is the contents of Stefan's abandoned locker that went up for sale, went up for auction on eBay last month. Is that correct? Is that what you're talking about? And he sent me a text back and says, no. He says, not videotape. He says, I have, this is from a totally different source, and I have the masters, the raw footage from the film, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this. We're going to finish this film with or without Tony. So anyway, at that point, I figured, you know what, this is crazy. It's insane, and I wanted to find out who his source was, if indeed this is for real, and what his intentions were. So I immediately went into, I decided I'm going to play the player. So I texted him back and I said, hey, look, I can tell you right now that if I tell Tony this, what you're telling me, Tony's just going to flip. I said, he's not going to work with you. He's not going to do anything. So I said, if you really do have this footage, I said, and you're really sincere about getting this film finished, I might be interested in helping you to get to that destination. Mind you, I'm going undercover here because I want to get on his good side and so that he'll, trust me. And I said, if there's anything I can do to help you with your project, please let me know. And this guy sends me a text back and he says, actually, I would. He says, if you still have the grandpa costume and the face mold and all that and the mask and the mold and all that kind of stuff, he says, I'd like to hire you for 2 days of coming in and reshooting some of the grandpa scenes. And I sent him a text back and I said, sure, yeah, that'd be great. I still have the costume and I still have the face mask and I have all that stuff. I said, why don't you draw up a contract and we'll take it from there. And he sends me a text back and he says, actually I was thinking it would be great maybe to bring you on as a co-producer. He says, because I know that you have, I know from watching In Search of All American Massacre that you have a lot of photos that are your photos that you took with your camera on the set. And he said, and I know that you had mentioned in that film that you still had a copy of the script. And I know you have a lot of promotional stuff from the film. And he says, it'd be great to, if you wouldn't mind, lending that stuff that we could use it in the documentary that we're going to have accompany the movie. And, I'll make you a co-producer of the film. And so I sent him a text back and I said, yeah, I have all that stuff. Yeah, I'll work with you on this. I said, why don't you go ahead and do a contract and we'll take it from there. And so, because I had to get my bearings. I was like, I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants here, right, folks? So anyway, a few days go by, and sure enough, a contract arrives, and boy, it's quite a contract. And I'll tell you all what that contract said in a different post, but I'm just going to wrap this up real quick. The bottom line is I spent 5 months undercover with this guy, getting to the bottom of just exactly what it is that he had and who his source was, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm here to tell you that there is going to be no All-American Massacre movie made by this guy. He doesn't have any raw footage. That's all a lie. He doesn't even have a copy of the script. Even if he had the footage, he wouldn't be able to assemble it because he doesn't even have the script. He doesn't even know what order everything, goes in. And he's just basically crowdfunding for, I don't even know for what reason, probably just to line his own pockets. But believe me, folks, when I tell you that this guy is a fraud, he's a snake oil salesman. And if you have bought, like, if you pay so much money, you get to have a walk-on part in the movie and all that. None of that's going to happen. So if you bought that, if there's any way that you can get some recourse on that, you might want to pursue that, because, this guy needs to be stopped. And people do not give him any more money. And here's the good news. I was just talking to Tony yesterday, and Tony is got a new burning desire to get in and get this movie finished. So this movie is going to come out, and Tony is the one who's going to release it, not these clowns. So believe me when I tell you, don't fund this guy's attempt at trying to make All-American Massacre, because there's nothing there. It's all smoke and mirrors. Now, over the next couple of months, I plan on documenting in quite vivid detail what my undercover experience was like. And it's quite an interesting experience. But I'm going to do it over a series of posts, because otherwise I'll be talking here for an hour. Anyway, Tony is going full force on this movie. This is happening, folks. Just be patient. And one thing that I'll do is that with every post I leave, which I figure I can do a post a month, and I can do them in maybe 6 posts telling this story, I'll give an update on how Tony's doing with the movie. Okay? All right. Talk to you soon.